Hey guys, Sundown here. This is giving my chapter review to Nanatsu no Taizai, or the 7 Deadly Sins 307, Epilogue 1. Finally, my proper camera and the place where I have the proper camera. First of all, apologies for not having released any of these. I think for the last 2-3 months I've been really bad at releasing just reviews on time in general. And to be fair, it's not really going to improve. I only really have time on the weekends to like kind of write down all of my ideas about a chapter, to actually read the chapters. I've only read Taizai today, Friday night, so I really don't have like very much time during the weekdays with other things going on in my evenings to be able to do chapters. And when I do have the time, usually I'm asked by one of the guys to jump in a podcast, and to be honest, that would be the Hero Association, so like Satsuki, Kishin, Grim, Zonin, Mark. Oh, sorry, Mark. That's so racist. Matt, looks like it's Matt. But yeah. So usually I'm in a podcast with them just because I'd prefer to be in a podcast rather than doing a review. But that's just generally the reason why. Anyway, getting on this chapter. For me, this was just a typical shonen ending kind of chapter, ending of series chapter with a little bit of tragedy kind of sprinkled at the top at the end, just to keep us a little on edge. But I can bet my left nut that Nakaba will no doubt remove that element of tragedy as well. But don't hold me to that bet. I can't bet in my religion. So, what do we get at the end of this chapter? What do we get throughout this chapter? First, it's the night of the end of the Holy War. That's what this chapter is based on. The night of the end of the Holy War. Remember that. It's been about 5-6 hours since the Holy War finished. Or if the Holy War finished in the morning, it's been probably about 11 to 15 hours. Maybe around about 11ish. Now, Bartra narrates to Slater and some other fodder from Dawn's Roar, the guy I couldn't really give a shit about how much pain people have suffered due to the war, but they must carry on toward the new dawn, pun intended. And I was like, okay, cool, but you're a king and they're peasants, different worlds here. Or geez, son, they're gonna be struggling. You're gonna be pretty chilling. I mean, like, I know you're gonna help. You're a good king. You're gonna help in the reconstruction of the village and the city itself. But like, they're gonna struggle. He asks Dawn's Roar to join him that night, wherever that may be. I assume it would be for drinks. We find that out later, and we then go to a house or room. I think it's actually it's one of the houses or rooms in Lioness somewhere. I think it's in Lioness Castle somewhere actually, where Gilthunder just awakens, surrounded by Hauser, Griamore, Margaret, and Veronica. And I'm not sure about you, but Margaret looked a little more done up this chapter. Like, she had lipstick on and everything, and I suppose like she has been possessed by a dude for like the last 100 chapters or something like that, so kind of makes sense. I'm not tearing apart her design. It was really cool, but I'm just making note of it. So we get a small kind of tsundere moment between Griamore and Veronica, with Hauser telling them to hook up already. He then gets pissed off when Gilthunder and Margaret proceed to kind of start hooking up a little bit, asking them to get a room. So I was like, dude, like, you need to decide what you want. You want him to hook up? Do you want him to not hook up? Do you want to watch? Do you not? What the fuck's up with you? So we then go to Dreyfus and Hendrickson, two characters I feel most people really like just because of the shit they've been through. Hendrickson gets treated like shit for being like a treacherous prick, even though he had actually been manipulated and all that jazz. Dreyfus having been possessed for the longest of times and committing atrocities alongside Hendrickson. They've been through hell and back, or to hell and back. And the only issue I had with this part was Dreyfus saying he couldn't really hate Frodrin. And he's mentioned this before, we've seen this before, and I've never really commented on it, but I get where he's coming from, really I do. But Frodrin was an evil prick. Just because he took a liking to Dreyfus and his son, because he was possessing Dreyfus, and to keep up the act he was basically raising Griamore, it doesn't mean that he's innocent of all the filthy crimes he's committed, especially the major crime, which was, I'm pretty sure he was the one responsible for the death of Liz, which was Meliodas' previous lover. But it's not like she wasn't going to die anyway, so, I mean, like, come on. But also, what the frick happened to that demon that Dreyfus was supposed to be fighting? I think he was the all-white one, the kind of hollowish looking dude. That thing looked like a dangerous mofo. He woke up feeling dangerous, and we didn't even see it in action. It was complete disappointment on my part, on your part, everyone's part. We didn't ever get to see that again. All we know is that Frodrin's gone. And I'm just like, the fuck? Like, really? That's all we get? Anyway, the two kind of drinking bros make their way to somewhere to get their drinks. And at this point, I kind of realized that, yeah, I think everyone's going to convene at the Boar's Hat. So we then go to Jericho, who is wearing more woman-like clothing and seems to have had her lips done. Good on her, I suppose. I mean, like, her lips were always, let's be real, her lips were always more pronounced in the manga than all the other women. But her lips were, like, really pronounced this chapter. Like, they'd been filled with some shit. Was Jericho's art really weird this chapter? Let me know what you guys think of that. I think it was, but it might just be me. We haven't seen her in a bit. So she meets Gila, who questions why she's out at this time of night, even though Gila herself is totally out at the same time of night with her younger brother too. It's like, but like, I'm not sure how to take that. But we find out Jericho is going to be training young Dale, which is pretty cool. The three of them then bump into Matrona and Gerhardt, as well as some fairy no one really gives a shit about. And Matrona is down to human size due to having been given the same kind of potion that Diane drinks to become human sized. We've seen her use it multiple times. Anyway, the all-female version of Glox and Dolo say they were invited here, no doubt for drinks, and we know what that's going to be. We then go to Ban and Meliodas, who finally corner Hawk eating some scraps. Now, this part of the chapter was both trashy and slightly decent at the same time. So it turns out Hawk's special reason for not going to Meliodas' spirit realm to kind of cheer him on and like be a cheerleader essentially, and for his whole reason for acting weird is because he's just at this precise moment in time realized that he is useless compared to the other sins. And I'm just like, bro, how has it taken you this damn long? And this depresses him, and he weeps in front of Meliodas and Ban, and Meliodas kind of agrees with Hawk. He's like, bruh, when has that never not been the case? Or when has that ever not been the case? You know, that you were ever weak or anything like that. You've always been weak. Which gets him a clap across the head by Ban. But you can see where this is going and how it was always going to go. Hawk comes clean. Meliodas and Ban kind of rub his tummy a bit. Say, you know, you may be weak, but you're brave as fuck. Which is true. He's always brave, but like that also comes with a whole shit ton of plot armor because the dude doesn't just seem to die. For some reason, he doesn't die. And I'm not sure why he doesn't die. I think that might have something to do with the fact that being the kind of gateway to purgatory, if he dies, he comes back to life. It's kind of similar to Meliodas' death, but without his emotions being expunged from him. So, yeah, Meliodas agrees with Hawk, saying that, like, yeah, he's weak, but he's brave. And yeah, Meliodas and Ban both kind of say this, and Hawk is suddenly remotivated, and his troubles vanish. The issue I have here is, and entertain me now, I don't give a shit. I have never really given a shit about Hawk. I couldn't give a shit. When he was killed by Hendrickson, I was like, aight, cool, I don't give a shit about Hawk. He feels he's weak. Damn straight, you're weak. He's not a knight. And quite frankly, he's had nothing going for him in the story for a very, very, very long time. The only interesting thing about him was that we didn't know where he was from, why he could revive, or anything like that. And now we can assume why he revives, even though I'm not exactly sure why he does. It might have been said, but I simply can't remember. Beyond that, he's just a character that can't find a nice time to die for plot reasons, and he has zero influence on the story. Anyway, Ban and Meliodas then use this opportunity to sing Hawk the song that Wilde would sing him when he was a babe, and this was kind of touching, and it makes me feel bad that Hawk will, like, legitimately, it makes me feel bad that Hawk will never, or seemingly never, know of the brother that poured his heart, soul, and eventually his body into seeing his brother one more time, even though at the end he realized he couldn't, and he just kind of let his will pass on to Ban and Meliodas. I was like, yo, that's really, really deep, and it's really, really, it pulls at the heartstrings just a little bit. And whether or not Ban should, or Meliodas, and Meliodas should tell Hawk about, you know, Wilde, I think that's up for debate. But Hawk's instinctual tears at this unfamiliar tune was a decent touch to the chapter, and I think it would have been better if he had said that it had some sort of nostalgic feeling to it or anything like that, because like at the moment he's just crying on instinct, whereas I'm just like, if there was some element of recognition, like, that sounds familiar, I can't really remember where it's from, seeing as it's been like thousands of years probably. I could understand why he wouldn't be able to recount where it comes from, but the fact that he just doesn't remember it completely, I mean, like, he was very young when he came to the human world, so we kind of excuse him for that. But then the kind of crying on instinct thing is a bit weird in and of itself. Anyway, we go to the Boar's Hat and everyone is inside getting drunk and all that shit. And I found it super weird how Meliodas opens the door with Ban and Hawk beside him. Yet Meliodas, Ban, and Hawk are in the double spread, showing like who's at the party. So I was like, that's a really weird artistic choice. You know, they open the door, they're looking inside, and they're looking at themselves inside. So it suggests that they open the door and then we just see them mingle into the party. But that just feels like a really weird artistic choice. I was thinking if they open the door, they see everyone in the thingy and they get invited in, which was, I don't know, I just thought that was a bit weird. Anyway, everyone's drinking, making merry and all that shit. Bartra tries some of Meliodas' food, chokes it out, and Slater gives chase to the Sin, and that was pretty funny. Anyway, Meliodas and Ban are told to take a break by Elizabeth, which they do. They go outside and Meliodas makes a comment about having to restock his booze next time around. Ban cuts to the chase and he's like, when is next time? So Meliodas smiles as like around about the same time that Ban does here. And basically Ban asks Meliodas like when he's going to have to leave, as he can't stay in this world much longer. He knows that Meliodas can't stay in this world much longer. Now, this part was cool and stuff, but there's 2 points I'd like to make. One, everyone saw this coming. Literally everyone. If you didn't, you're not everyone. Two, how much you want to bet Nakaba finds some stupid way, some really, really stupid way out of this. Either Merlin rolls up and says, nah, you know what, I don't like this part of the story, I'm just going to rewrite it. Nakaba's not allowed to input anything here. That could happen. I mean, like Merlin, we've seen what Merlin can do. She could literally change the story just depending on when she wants to do it. So that's one instance. Meliodas could just find some stupid reasoning for not wanting to leave or not leaving at all. That could happen. We've seen Meliodas do these kinds of things before. 3, Elizabeth just accompanies him to the underworld. I don't see why not. Has it ever been stated or said that goddesses physically can't travel to the underworld? Possibly, but I can't remember. And if I can't remember, I'm going to mention it. Anyway, Taizai's on break next week, but we still have questions. 1, where the frick is Zeldris? Like, everyone's, like, pretty much everyone in the manga stream comments is just like, they say their piece, and then they're just like, actually, where the frick is Zeldris? Everyone's partying it up like he didn't just save their asses a few hours ago. And speaking of a few hours ago, I said I was going to bring this up. How are they all in such good health? They were fighting a war less than 5 to 6, maybe maximum around about 12 hours prior to this. What the like, how are they in such good health? And I understand they have Merlin, they have what's her name, Elizabeth, and they're both capable of healing and shit, but they were physically, mentally, emotionally, magically, every type of lead drained, and they would not have had the capacity to heal everyone the way they've been healed. So there's just really no reason for that. Anyway, 2, where the hell is the original demon / original sinner / whatever the frick his name is? Dude didn't die, so is he just chilling, lying on the ground like, yo, that was pretty deep? I'm like, will he pop out? Will he pop up and like make some bullshit excuse for Meliodas not having to go to the demon world or the underworld, which is what where I assume he has to go? Or will Zeldris and the sinner pop up at the same time, ask the Meliodas to grant the title of Demon King to Zeldris, and then this would allow Meliodas to stay? Assuming that it's because he has to then take the role of the Demon King. That's why he has to leave. I always personally thought he had to leave because he'd reached a kind of power level beyond the capacity of the human realm, especially after unleashing his true unexplained hacks ability, which no one really knows what that does. So that's why I thought he had to go to the underworld, but there might be another reason, and maybe giving away like the kingship to Zeldris or something like that will save him of having to go back. 3, is Arthur just going to remain dead? Yeah? Oh, okay. So, 4, Supreme Deity hasn't popped up. I mean, I'm cool with that, but the story just seems to have really ended on a flat note, and like, we got the Demon King, but no input from the Supreme Deity. I mean, like, having the Demon King and the Supreme Deity, I mean, like, that would have been a bit messy. And the fact that they just be chilling in their own realms and pulling people in and being like, nah, I don't like you, and killing them and shit like that. I feel like that could have got really messy as well. So I'm kind of happy that we didn't get to see the Supreme Deity, but also I really wanted to see the Supreme Deity just a little bit. So I'm a little bit conflicted on that, so I won't give Nakaba shit for that. But that's the end of the chapter, and this is basically the end, almost the end of the story. So let me know what you guys thought of this review of the chapter. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and I'll see you guys in 2 weeks for Taizai at least, but I'll see you definitely tomorrow for like One Punch. My Hero, One Piece, all that shit over this weekend. So I'll see you guys in a bit.